Charlotte V. Manor, aka your girl Aquarius, and today I'm on here to do a review for the self-help book Codependent No More, and there are over 5 million copies sold, and it's by Melody Betty, but she spelled it with an I. The book is pretty typical. It gives real life examples of what codependency looks like, and I was kind of here for that. I didn't really relate to some of the stories, so I won't focus too much on them, but the information about overcoming codependency, spotting codependency, it was all very helpful. So I'll start with the things that I really enjoyed about this book. It's called Codependent No More: How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Controlling Yourself. So yes, it's nonfiction and it can be categorized as self-help to a lot of people, and I have some notes written down, but I also have some on my laptop that I need to open right now. This book starts off telling you what codependency is, and according to Melanie Betty, let's see what I wrote. She thinks that someone who has codependency is someone who lets other people's behavior affect them. They're obsessed with other people's behavior, and they're obsessed with controlling another person's behavior. They literally cannot function unless the person of their eye is doing what they want them to do. So when you're codependent, you have a hard time going within, you have a hard time focusing on yourself, and that's something the book lets you know very early on. You start to realize how addicting codependency really is, and you start to wonder if you actually have it. Another thing I liked about this book is how it lets you know that codependency is really just your need to control, and you want to control because it gives you a sense of security. And a lot of times people who are codependent tended to have abusive childhoods, and she goes into that a little bit, but not enough for my liking. I would have loved her to have like a whole chapter dedicated to how childhood shapes codependency, but she pretty much focused on adults and how as adults you have this codependency. So what are you gonna do about it? There was a quiz that she gave, or not really a quiz, it was like a questionnaire. I'll list some of the things out. For example, she has a chapter called Codependent Characteristics, and that's basically, it highlights the different things that as a codependent you might find yourself doing. So I'll read a few right here, and as you can see, I highlighted some of it. The light's too bright, so I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it'll say codependents may think and feel responsible for other people, for other people's feelings, thoughts, actions, choices, wants, needs, well-being, luck, lack of well-being, and ultimately destiny. So as you can see already, when you're codependent, you really out here thinking that you have more control than you actually do. I just love the advice that she gives. She tells us that most of us have been so busy trying to help people live their best lives that when we take a step back and look around, our life tends to be in shambles, and she does a good job describing that. She also lets you know that being codependent can make your life much worse. I know there's a lot of stories revolving around alcohol, since a lot of codependents came from homes where a parent or two abused alcohol or drugs, but there's more focus on the alcohol because, as you know, a lot of demons are attracted to the intoxicated, and I just like how she drives that point home. Sometimes you read these chapters and you really start thinking that codependency and alcohol go hand in hand. A lot of times, a lot of us grew up in families where alcohol was abused, and when that happens, when your parents under the influence, you may have had to pick up the slack. And she goes into details explaining that, which I really liked. And she gives you a little bit of ways to heal codependency. In my opinion, there should have been more focus on healing the codependency. I feel like this is more of a book on what codependency is. When she say Codependent No More, I feel like that could have been left out of the title, because a lot of the chapters have simple ways to address codependency, but I just feel like it doesn't hit home the way the information on codependency does. I know for the chapters they look like this. You'll get like a whole chapter of how codependency can ruin your life, and then when it comes to healing the codependency, there's like 1 or 2 short exercises that doesn't get to the root of the problem. So I feel like that's something that can be worked on. But other than that, I highly recommend this book. If you feel like you're a codependent or you know someone who's codependent, I recommend this book. What made me read this book is because at one point when I was in college, I graduated a year ago. When I was in college, I was definitely codependent. I felt the need to help everybody, and it definitely affected my life in a negative way. I would say I've overcome my codependency, but it does come out every now and then. But I recommend this book for people who don't know anything about codependency, or you want to know more about codependency and how it affects your life with less focus on how to heal from codependency. So that's kind of like my review on this. Oh, and some negatives that I guess I would give the book. The author, from what I know, she does not have a background in this study. So she's going mostly from experience and the stories of the people throughout her life. So that is something to keep in mind. If you're looking for statistics and facts, this might not be the book for you. I picked it up because I did want a book with a real person telling me real live accounts of people suffering from codependency. There's a lot of focus on alcohol. There's even a chapter dedicated to Alcohol Anonymous, so I will keep that in mind. If you're trying to just focus on codependency, there are a lot of things that overlap for this book. So my cons for this book is just a lack of research. Sometimes codependency is described in vague ways, and she tries to make up for that through the stories, but personally, I would rather there be more research and then snippets of real life stories versus whole chapters of a person's experience with codependency. But that's just me, because I know people are different where they're like, they love the stories of people who was experiencing codependency. I'm just more of a, I like to see facts with books like this. So again, it's just personal preferences, and I do feel like a lot of time the author goes off on a tangent. You kind of start getting the point. You start getting that codependents deny that they're codependent. They don't realize it until they're like in depth from helping other people, and once you get it, it's kind of like, okay, I'm ready for the next stance. But then she goes on for a few more pages on what codependency is and things like that. So she goes off topic a lot. So if you don't like that, then that might take your enjoyment out of this book or your learning experience out of this book. But overall, the pros to me outweigh the cons. It's a very groundbreaking book highlighting how you can love yourself and put yourself first without, you know, being mean, because some people really have lived their lives for other people, and so this book does a good job explaining that. So I definitely recommend this book, Codependent No More. And that's my review on the book, my first review. I know my first review was a nonfiction self-help book, but like I said in my first video, I read young adult novels every now and then, and when I do, it's usually ones that aren't mainstream, even though I will read mainstream because I've read a lot of mainstream books, which I will post on this channel. But I just wanted to give you a feel for the type of books that I like. And again, I know last time I showed you Awakening Shakti, and this time I'm showing you a nonfiction self-help book. The last book I showed you was a book about goddesses. So I'm starting off with these books so you can kind of get the type of books that I like. So they might not be mainstream, but I will talk about them. There are a lot of young adult novel channels out there, so I just trying to add something different. And that was my book review for Codependent No More. Definitely recommended to a lot of you guys who have a hard time saying no, or you can't focus on your life until you know someone else's life is good. I recommend this book for you. And that's all I have for today. Again, I'm Charlotte V. Manor, aka your girl Aquarius, and I will see you all next time.